Welcome back to The Lead. We've got more in our politics lead now. The fight for the Republican nomination ramping up today after Donald Trump solidified his lead as the front runner last night. Ted Cruz still in striking distance after picking up Idaho, and today getting Carly Fiorina's surprise endorsement. Joining me now is Sam Clovis. He is Donald Trump's national campaign co-chair. Sam, thank you for being with us once again.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
So tell us, what's your reaction to Carly Fiorina's endorsement of Ted Cruz?
Well, I think it's what you would. I think you'd see this. There are people out there that are they're trying to find a way. I think there's also some motivation, personal motivation behind it. I think that Mrs. Fiorina ran a reasonable campaign, and I think that there probably is an affinity between her and Senator Cruz, and it probably is a natural endorsement for her.
It is likely that Carly Fiorina remembers the comment about her face by Donald Trump, as do many of her women voters. Are you confident that Donald Trump can overcome that and appeal to women voters in the rest of the primaries, but in a general election?
Well, I think so, and I think what you really see here is that the people are voting across the United States right now. In a series of primaries and caucuses, we've seen record turnout across the board. I think we're looking at like 35% increase in turnout in the primary cycle, which is pretty remarkable. I think you see, almost 80% of the vote going to people in the Republican Party that are considered outsiders. And I think this is really the American people getting up on their hind legs and telling the establishment that we're not really interested in what you have to say anymore.
Sam, I have to ask you, watching Donald Trump's victory speech last night, to a lot of folks, looked a lot more like an infomercial than a political speech. How is it presidential for a candidate to sell steaks and wine on stage as he's running for the nation's highest office?
Well, because he was accused of all of those enterprises that he showed last night were out of business and that they didn't exist. And in fact, they do. And I think here's the issue. I think one of the number one issue in this campaign has been, will be, and it will always be the economy. And I think if you take a look at any person running for the presidency of the United States, there is only one who has created jobs. He's created tens of thousands of jobs. And that is a manifestation. What he showed last night is a manifestation of the breadth and depth of his business operations, standing in the golf club and doing all those things. Those are things that tell the American people that this is a man who can get things done.
Well, I have to ask you, too, is that we have another Republican debate on CNN tomorrow night. We heard Donald Trump tell our Chris Cuomo this morning that we should expect, in his words, a nicer, softer, lighter debate. In light of his tactics, his rhetoric to this point, why make that change now?
Well, I don't think it'll be him that'll be making the change. I think the other candidates have figured out that when everybody, goes after each other up on the stage, the American people lose out, and it really doesn't benefit anybody. In fact, there's been no position movement. In fact, I think Marco Rubio is really struggling right now, trying to find his footing. I think Ted is essentially stagnating in second place. We seem to be improving, and we're stretching our delegate lead. And after next Tuesday, I think it's going to be an insurmountable lead. And I think that this is what I think is really going on here. The psychology right now going into the next Super Tuesday is that I don't think it benefits anyone to get up on that stage and raise their elbows. It really doesn't. I think they really need to get up there and differentiate themselves and make the case going forward why they should be the president of the United States.
Sam Clovis, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.